headlines are saying about you. So how has that media attention impacted your brand?
It's like Tina Fey says, if you're feeling good about yourself, just go online.
Blake Lively believed she had full support from the people around her. In court, she and her legal team repeatedly said she was not responsible for any problems that happened during filming. They also claimed that people stopped following Justin Baldoni online because of their own personal reasons, not because of her actions. At the same time, Blake was extremely focused on shaping opinions behind the scenes. She worked hard to turn others against Justin, especially during post-production, because she needed strong backing for her version of the movie. To make her edits succeed, Blake needed one key ally, the author of the original book, Colleen Hoover. Winning Colleen's support was important because the story came from her work. Blake offered Colleen unusual access to the editing room. She allowed her to sit in, review footage closely, and send many detailed notes directly to Sony. This happened because Blake did not create the story herself. The entire film had been shot by Justin. Blake had never read the novel, so she did not fully understand the plot or characters. She only knew what was in the script, which left her unsure how to shape the final cut. Because of that, she relied heavily on Colleen's guidance. By giving Colleen so much involvement, Blake believed she had secured loyalty. However, that trust did not hold. Colleen may have helped with editing decisions and may have supported the movie's promotion, but during her deposition, she did not protect Blake. Her statements created problems instead. One lawyer asked Colleen about unfollowing Justin before the movie premiere on August 6th. Colleen confirmed that she did and said she did it because Blake asked her to. When questioned about a phone call on May 16th, where she allegedly told Blake she hated Justin, Colleen said she could not remember the conversation. She added that using words like hate did not sound like something she would normally say. There was also proof that others unfollowed Justin at Blake's request. A text message from Jenny Slate showed that she unfollowed Justin for Blake and also had her sister and assistant do the same. While Colleen said she could not remember what she told Blake, another message told a different story. 2 days after Blake spoke with Colleen, Blake texted Taylor Swift. In that message, Blake claims Colleen contacted her because Justin was running an online smear campaign to push his version of the movie. Blake said Colleen was shocked, said Justin had lied, and claimed she hated him. Blake also said Colleen felt used and ignored by Justin while being shown publicly for good publicity. Blake went on to describe a private screening of her cut in New York. She said the response was very positive. Several powerful figures watched it, some more than once, and praised her work. Instead of giving notes, they reportedly contacted studio leadership to support Blake's version without comparing it to Justin's. According to Blake, Colleen supported this move as well. Later, Blake spread a rumor on set about Colleen and Justin sharing a specific spiritual belief. This story did not come from Justin or Colleen. It started online, mostly through fan speculation on platforms like TikTok and BookTok. People could not understand why Colleen would sell the rights to Justin, so they created their own explanation. In reality, many people who worked with Wayfair have said that religious belief was not a requirement and not the main influence behind the company or its films. The company does have a purpose. It tries to lift up stories that are usually ignored and give space to voices that are not often heard. However, it is not a Baha'i organization. It is not officially connected to the Baha'i religion in any formal way. Despite this, Blake shared many false claims about Justin. She described him as a cult leader and said he believed himself to be some kind of prophet. None of this was supported by facts. Blake gave Colleen special access to the editing room, something Colleen had wanted for a long time. While Colleen may have felt frustrated at different moments during the process, she was involved throughout. She helped with the script, took part in rewrites, and gave notes directly to Justin. There are many messages showing Justin regularly asking Colleen for her input. So when Justin and Jamie spoke with Colleen in May 2024 about serious issues with Blake over the final version of the movie, they were being honest about what was happening. A power struggle was clearly taking place. Sony knew about it. Wayfair knew. Everyone involved at a higher level understood the situation. Colleen did not want to accept what Justin and Jamie were telling her. She had just met Blake, and Blake had given her a sense of control in the editing process. Because of that, Colleen felt offended that anyone would criticize Blake. She became upset and went straight to Blake to discuss it. After that conversation, Blake gave Colleen even more influence, including a private space to work on edits. Blake also had Colleen write about 5 pages of editing notes to send to Josh Greenstein. Blake needed this help because she did not understand the full story. She never read the book, something she later admitted during testimony. Blake also needed support from the actors. That was difficult because she barely knew most of them. She was not present when Isabella Ferrer filmed her scenes as young Lily or when Alex filmed as young Atlas. She only worked briefly with Brandon Slenner. Isabella's experience on set was mainly with Justin and Wayfair, and things were fine until Blake became involved. What stands out is how inappropriate it was to pull actors into behind-the-scenes conflicts. Executives discussing problems with Colleen made sense because she was an executive producer. However, involving the cast in office politics was unprofessional. Actors are there to perform, not to take sides. Blake and Colleen still drew them into the conflict, behaving more like high school cliques than professionals. Blake wanted Isabella on her side, but they had no relationship. Colleen acted as the bridge between them. Through Colleen, Blake connected with Isabella, and slowly Isabella was turned against Justin. At Book Bonanza, Colleen shared concerns with Isabella about Justin's behavior, including claims about him lying about her religion. Justin did not attend the event, even though he was originally supposed to. Instead, Blake's version of the movie was shown, and it was clear that Colleen supported Blake's cut. Blake's actions appeared planned. When she learned Justin might attend Book Bonanza and show his version to fans, she refused to promote the event. With Colleen's help, Justin was pushed out and Blake took control. She built relationships not out of care, but out of strategy. She promised Colleen future projects and control over a sequel. By appealing to what each person wanted most, she turned them against Justin and positioned herself at the center of everything. It is honestly uncomfortable to watch adults behave this way. The situation looks childish and immature. This is the kind of behavior people usually associate with high school drama, not professionals. A small group forms private chats, chooses one person to dislike, and then encourages each other to insult that person. That pattern is clear here. To be fair, publicists did speak badly about Blake at times, and that did happen. However, Blake herself was creating disorder during production. She caused confusion, stirred conflict, and disrupted progress. At one point, 2 Sony executives even described her behavior in extreme terms, showing how serious the situation had become. From early on, Blake worked to turn Jenny against Justin. This effort continued quietly until June 19, when messages between Blake, Colleen, and Taryn Fisher revealed how negative things had become. Taryn joked about wanting someone to send Justin's proposal videos. Colleen responded sarcastically, telling her to learn how to search online, then shared the video herself. Colleen added that the clip would inspire her and Blake for a future project. She laughed at her own remark. The tone quickly shifted. Taryn called Justin a sociopath. Blake immediately added that he was also a narcissist. From that point forward, Blake repeatedly labeled him with those words, presenting them as facts rather than opinions. What stands out is how easily Blake made these accusations. She described Justin as mentally unstable while showing the same traits she accused him of having. Many people noticed that contradiction. Colleen's role in this shift is important. She became swept up in attention, access, and promises of future success. Blake offered special treatment, influence over editing, and the idea of working on a sequel together. Along with that came stories meant to turn Colleen against Justin, including false claims about religion and honesty. Blake seemed comfortable inventing details whenever it suited her goals. Blake did not work alone. She also involved her husband and used his influence to strengthen her position. Together, they worked behind the scenes to secure Colleen's loyalty. Once they believed everyone important was on their side, Blake's version of the movie was completed and the premiere took place. After that moment, the situation changed quickly. Public reaction turned negative and criticism grew louder. Before the release, Blake and Ryan had leverage. The movie had not been shown, which gave them power in negotiations with Sony and Wayfair. Once the film reached audiences, that leverage disappeared. They didn't own the story rights. They weren't studio executives. They didn't work for Wayfair or Sony. When the film was released, control slipped away from them. Sony could distance themselves more easily, and Blake and Ryan could no longer apply the same pressure. Sony offered public support only because it was necessary at the time. Behind the scenes, they lacked control over online reactions. Social media conversations were outside their reach. Promotion managed by the studio lasted only briefly. After that, responsibility shifted entirely to Blake and Ryan. At that stage, Sony stepped back, leaving them with only their agency for support. Despite this, Blake and Ryan continued acting as if they were still in charge. In reality, they had little influence left beyond personal connections. They scrambled to maintain authority while lacking real control. On August 10th, Ryan sent Colleen a long and emotional message, filled with praise, excitement, and dramatic language. He opened by saying he was sending every kind of congratulations possible. He described himself cheering wildly and clapping with excitement. He said that at the after-party he was only a few feet from her, but could not escape a long conversation with the Sony chairman. He seemed surprised that his phone still had service and used that moment to express shock at how successful everything had become. He told Colleen that the project was exploding everywhere and audiences were fully embracing the movie. He said she and Blake created something beautiful from difficult circumstances, which made them and the post-production group impressive in his eyes. He mentioned hearing that she had gotten sick and was stuck in New York, then made a crude joke tying that illness to Justin. His message mixed praise with insults, celebration with attacks, and humor with hostility. Ryan encouraged Colleen to enjoy the moment and praised her strength as a creator. He said people with unclear motives were drawn to her success and tried to benefit from her talent. He framed the current weekend as both a victory and proof of endurance. He said she helped build a story people wanted to experience, even though the subject was uncomfortable. He praised the opening numbers, saying the film performed better than many projects with much larger budgets. He claimed this success proved audiences would support women-led movies if the quality was strong. Throughout the message, Ryan repeatedly placed himself alongside Colleen, saying, "you and me," rather than keeping the focus on her. He described success as a shared personal triumph and suggested that bad people were finally being punished. His language became exaggerated and aggressive, using violent metaphors to describe winning. He praised her character, persistence, and heart, then said he could write dozens of pages about how meaningful this was to him. The message slowly turned from celebration into self-centered storytelling. Ryan spoke as if he represented the studio, claiming Sony supported the effort in ways he never expected. He invited Colleen and Blake to celebrate, offered to meet in New York, and even suggested a private getaway outside the city to escape online stress. At the same time, he criticized Justin, claimed industry enemies were behind online backlash, and suggested outside forces were manipulating public opinion. Later that day, Colleen replied politely and gratefully. She described the experience as overwhelming, both exciting and frightening. She admitted feeling unsure of her place, but said Blake made her feel welcome and valued. She thanked both Ryan and Blake and commented on the strong numbers, noting she was still learning how to understand film success. She said the experience was life-changing and praised them as generous and supportive people. What is troubling is the timing and framing of Ryan's message. He claimed victory over criticism and blamed online backlash on coordinated attacks, even though real fan reactions take time to grow and cannot appear overnight. Much of the criticism actually came from Colleen's own audience. Instead of accepting that feedback, Ryan and Blake framed it as fake, manipulated, or malicious. These messages show that Ryan and Blake misunderstood how online spaces work. Social platforms are not controlled like traditional media, and public opinion cannot be managed through pressure or headlines. When they failed to control the narrative, they chose denial and blame. They continued attacking Justin to keep Colleen separated from him and shifted responsibility away from their own actions, including isolating him and excluding him publicly. The messages were later marked as deleted, which only added to the sense that something about them was not meant to last. She said she believed Justin's side was shaping what people saw online. Because of that belief, she stayed away from social media and focused on messages from close friends who shared positive updates with her. She admitted for most of her life she lived quietly, without public attention. The sudden spotlight over the past few weeks felt overwhelming and stressful. She believed that pressure may have caused her body to shut down from exhaustion. She was used to working alone, quietly creating projects where success or failure belonged only to her. No one usually judged her personal relationships or motives. Being pushed into public attention so quickly felt shocking. She said she never expected things to grow so fast or become so intense. She described herself as someone who leaves early and avoids crowds, joking that she prefers to disappear when things get uncomfortable. With little experience in public conflict, she admitted she did not know the right way to respond. Ignoring the noise felt safest, but she had no professional public relations support. She relied only on instinct and asked others to guide her if she needed to react differently. She accepted as truth that a coordinated effort was happening online, even though she had no proof. That made her especially vulnerable. She worked mostly alone and did not have a large team protecting her. She was unfamiliar with fame and easily influenced. Ryan positioned himself as someone on her level, suggesting she now belonged in the same powerful circle. Ironically, while blaming others for using crisis management teams, Ryan and Blake already had one in place long before. Their strategy was clear: praise Blake publicly, speak about serious social issues, appear emotionally thoughtful, and ignore criticism. She laughed along with jokes about this approach and seemed to believe the truth would eventually come out. She expressed shock that so many people could turn away from someone accused of harmful behavior while still framing a woman as the problem. She found it disturbing how quickly blame shifted. She believed more people would speak openly soon. At the same time, she dismissed many critics as immature teenagers who would later regret their comments. She claimed smarter observers already understood what was really happening. She also repeated the idea that online opinion was improving and moving away from Justin. She focused on the movie's strong performance and audience praise, treating success as proof of being right. Meanwhile, Ryan acted as if he personally created that success. He kept her close by repeating negative stories about Justin, offering luxury, access, and a sense of belonging. Power and attention were used as tools. She was drawn in by influence and promises. Later, she gave interviews expressing embarrassment about the movie and released a new book inspired by the experience. While she may have been inexperienced with fame, she was familiar with narcissistic behavior. She struggled to accept criticism and often shifted blame. She also spoke negatively about Justin to the press, repeating stories that originated elsewhere. Eventually, relationships fell apart. Ryan, Blake, and Colleen drifted away from one another. Despite public claims that many wanted to work with Blake, opportunities dried up. It was surprising that Colleen faced few consequences and continued securing adaptations. Ryan warned her about predators while behaving in the same way he described. He repeatedly labeled Justin as dishonest while projecting those traits himself. The film outcome came from isolating Justin, turning Colleen against him, influencing Isabella, and encouraging others to publicly cut ties. This was only a small part of a much larger situation. Many documents remain unseen, and more details are expected to emerge as records become public.